Welcome to the Classic Soap Operas podcast. Today we're embarking on really a captivating journey into the dramatic, sometimes surprising, and just undeniably influential world of classic radio soap operas. We've got a fascinating collection of sources for this deep dive, really pulling back the curtain on the origins, the appeal, and, well, the eventual evolution of a genre that shaped daily life for millions. Our mission today, to uncover the secrets behind their success, maybe some real-life inspirations, and why these intricate narratives were, far more sophisticated than maybe their reputation suggests. Get ready for some wild storylines, maybe some laughs, too.
Indeed. And we'll be focusing particularly on one cornerstone of this era, the road of life. It's a deep dive that I think reveals how these shows became just such a staple in homes across America, offering both escapism, which was so needed, and also a reflection of the times. We'll trace its journey, from the airwaves right up to the television screen, exploring what made it resonate so deeply and why its legacy, well, it endures.
Okay, let's unpack this then. How did these daily dramas become so powerful, so influential? And maybe first, where did that term soap opera even come from?
Well, what's fascinating here is how networks and advertisers, and this was way back, by 1930, they recognized the immense potential of the daytime market. They understood that, with men generally at work and kids at school, the housewife represented a really significant market force, a huge demographic just waiting.
And that's where the soap part fits in, right? These big household and cleaning product companies like Procter & Gamble, Colgate, Palmolive, they saw a natural fit. I mean, you can just imagine tuning in for your daily drama, and it's all seamlessly intertwined with messages about, your favorite laundry detergent. It's kind of brilliant, really.
Exactly. It was brilliant marketing. And the opera part, well, that points to the dramatic, often melodramatic, and crucially, the serialized nature. These weren't just simple stories, wrapped up in 15 minutes. They were these grand narratives. Wealth, glamour, but also everyday struggles, all designed to appeal to that housebound listener and, importantly, keep them hooked day after day.
So they had this huge reach, this massive audience, but they also got a bit of a bad rap, didn't they? There's that stereotype you sometimes hear, the working-class housewife, dishes piling up, kids maybe running wild.
Right, while she's lost to her soaps.
Yeah, just completely absorbed.
And this raises a really important question about the term soap opera itself. Particularly in North America, it has often been considered, a women's genre. And unfortunately, that often led to it being easily devalued. It carried what one source calls sexist and classist baggage, basically implying it was lesser somehow. It developed this reputation for tawdriness, whether that was deserved or not. It kind of stuck.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because our sources argue pretty strongly that this reputation just completely ignores the complex narrative forms these shows were using. They weren't simple at all.
Not at all. If we connect this to the bigger picture, enjoying soap operas, actually following them, required a high degree of knowledge and, frankly, sophistication from the audience. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Listeners had to track multiple ongoing storylines. Characters aged, relationships shifted, plot lines went on for years. You had to remember who did what to whom, months or even years earlier. It was escapism, sure, but definitely not easy escapism. It required real engagement.
Yeah, that seriality was truly key. Unlike other dramas, maybe evening shows with self-contained episodes, soaps continuously spun multiple plot lines, always kept you guessing what was coming next.
Exactly. It wasn't just one story. It was usually 3 or 4 major arcs running at the same time. Love affairs, ethical problems, family secrets, professional crises. They trained audiences in long-form storytelling, really, keeping all those threads going, sometimes for years. It's kind of what we see in prestige TV now, in a way.
So let's talk about the masterminds behind these dramatic worlds, the people actually writing this stuff. We have 2 major players, Erna Phillips and the husband and wife team, Ann and Frank Hummert.
Right. Erna Phillips, she's often called the mother of daytime drama, and for good reason. She was a staff writer who started with Painted Dreams back in 1930. That was a story about a mother and her unmarried daughter. And Phillips was meticulous, even early on, about building in chances for product tie-ins. She'd apparently even write engagements and weddings into the plot specifically to maximize those advertising opportunities. Very shrewd.
Wow. And she later created Today's Children. Didn't she stop that one when her own mother died? The one who inspired the character?
That's the story, yes. A really strong personal connection there. But then she launched Woman in White, which was huge, groundbreaking as the first daytime serial centered on a hospital. Think about that shift, bringing all that medical drama right into people's living rooms every day. There's even some speculation, maybe a bit gossipy, about her own fascination with hospitals, maybe due to hypochondria. Who knows?
Makes you wonder. And she came up with some key conventions, too, right?
Well,
things we still see.
absolutely. Phillips originated several things that became standard, like the use of organ music for scene transitions, that dramatic swell, became totally iconic. Also, the heart-stopping cliffhanger ending, making absolutely sure you had to tune in the next day. Pure genius, narratively speaking. And interestingly, a deliberately slow pacing. This wasn't bad writing, it was intentional. It allowed busy housewives, doing chores, to follow along without missing crucial plot points. You could iron and still know what was happening.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so then the Hummerts, Anne and Frank, they were different, more like a factory.
That's how it's often described, yeah. Their company, Air Futures Inc., was like a radio factory. They had a very systematic approach. They practically invented the typical soap opera formula, streamlining the creation process.
And they had some huge hits, too.
Oh, massive. Just Plain Bill, Backstage Wife, and the really famous one, Ma Perkins. Ma Perkins was incredibly effective for advertising. Procter & Gamble did this mail hook campaign, offered flower seeds for 10 cents and an Oxydol box top. They got over 1 million requests. 1 million. It just shows the incredible reach and the direct impact on consumers.
1 million requests for flower seeds. That's unbelievable. That's some serious engagement. And the Hummerts added their own tropes, too, right? The really dramatic stuff.
Oh, yeah. They really leaned into the melodrama. Amnesia, blackmail, exotic diseases only found in soaps, murder trials, long-lost loves reappearing, you name it. If it sounds like a modern soap opera cliche, chances are the Hummerts were doing it back in the 30s and 40s. It was a full house of drama. These weren't just random, they were engines for conflict. Amnesia lets you reset everything.
Totally. Keeps the story going forever.
And a key detail about Anne Hummert specifically, her productivity was just staggering. Reportedly typing up to 2 million words a year. She'd create these detailed outlines and then supervise a whole staff of dialoguers who fleshed out the actual scenes. It was an assembly line for drama. And importantly, during the McCarthy era, Air Futures Inc. apparently refused to fire blacklisted writers if they were good, which was pretty principled for the time.
That is impressive. And they gave us the romance of Helen Trent, right? They ran forever.
Until 1960. 7,222 episodes. And Helen, the main character, a dressmaker, she stayed 35 years old the entire time, even though 3 different actresses played her.
Still 35. Amazing. Proving, as the show said, romance can begin at 35. It just never ends at 35.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Shows the audience loyalty, though, sticking with the character for decades.
Okay, so that sets the stage perfectly. Let's zoom in now on our main focus for today's deep dive, the road of life. What was this one all about?
Right, The Road of Life. This was another hugely popular one. Also created by Erna Phillips and produced by Procter & Gamble, naturally. It premiered back in 1937 and had a really long run on radio, right up until 1959. Over 20 years.
And the central figure was Dr. Jim Brent. We followed his whole life, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Our sources show he was followed right through his professional and personal journey. Listeners heard him as an intern, then a physician, a surgeon, navigating all sorts of life challenges, friendships, marriages, plural work crises. You really felt like you knew him.
And wasn't there that specific sound cue, the intercom? Dr. Brent caught surgery.
Exactly. That became his signature sound. Instantly recognizable. It immediately put you in that hospital setting.
So what made it stand out? Our sources mentioned something about the dialogue.
Yes, one of its notable appeals, according to the sources, was its more natural dialogue compared to some other soaps. Maybe less heightened, more realistic. And also the fact that its characters actually aged over the years, that was quite groundbreaking. Most shows kept characters static, like Helen Trent staying 35. But here, people grew older, faced different life stages. It added a layer of realism, I think. Made you feel like you were growing with them.
Okay, Dr. Jim Brent, the hero. But what about his wife? This is where it got a little confusing in the sources, right? Different names popped up.
It did get a bit murky. The old-time radio catalog source describes the story focusing on handsome Dr. Jim Brent and his wife Jocelyn in the town of Merrimack. It also notes that Jocelyn, while being the heroine of a medical drama, she would suffer from almost every dread disease known to medicine. Poor woman.
Huh. Every single one. He must have been busy just keeping her alive. Quite the patient load right there at home. But then, the Internet Archives collection. The Johann Memorial Collection, focusing on episodes from late 44, early 45. That one explicitly says his wife was Carol, played by Mabel Prindeville then. So, Jocelyn or Carol?
Yeah, it highlights how things could shift over a show that ran for 20-plus years. Names change, actors change. The Wikipedia source seems to suggest Jocelyn became the more recognized name, maybe later on, especially as Virginia Dwyer played her on both radio and the later TV version. So Jocelyn probably stuck. But regardless of the name, Carol or Jocelyn, the constant factor seems to have been this other family, the Overtons, described as well-to-do but highly dysfunctional. Their drama always seemed to spill over onto the Brents.
Always need a dysfunctional family nearby in a soap opera. And we learned some cool stuff about how these shows are even available today, thanks to that Joe Henn collection.
Absolutely. It's amazing work. These recordings, from December 44 to March 45, they're apparently new to circulation, taken right from the original transcription discs. That's gold for researchers and fans. And the collection itself is this massive effort by volunteers, North American and international, groups like the Old Time Radio Researchers, and get this, the Knights of the Turning Table.
The Knights of the Turning Table. I love that. Sounds like a secret society for audiophiles. So cool that people are doing this preservation work.
It really is. Organizations like that and Spurtbait, the Society to Preserve and Encourage Radio Drama, Variety, and Comedy, they're saving this history.
And that collection names the cast from that specific period.
Yeah.
Ken Griffin as Dr. Brent. And here's a great bit of trivia. The announcer then was Clayton Bud Collier.
No way. Radio's Superman.
The very same. Clark Kent Superman on radio, and later the host of TV's To Tell the Truth. What a voice to have introducing your daily drama.
Incredible talent. And having access to those specific episodes gives us a real snapshot of the day-to-day drama listeners were tuning into, right in the middle of the war years.
Oh yeah, the storylines sound intense, like late December 1944. Dr. Brent inquires about his son, instantly raises questions, personal stakes. Then bam, Dr. Fraser refuses to attend to emergency patient, leading to Dr. Fraser told get out of the operating room. Talk about workplace drama. Jumps right in.
No kidding. And then into January 45, it gets really personal. Carol argues with her aunt about divorcing Jim. Divorce was a huge deal then, and then she actually does it. Carol boards train for Reno to get divorced. Simultaneously, Brent's facing his own crisis, an ethics committee meeting begins, and ultimately, shocker, Dr. Brent found guilty.
Guilty. Guilty of what? See, that's the hook. That's the cliffhanger. You'd have to know what happens next. And Carol's trip to Reno doesn't sound easy either. She has a nightmare, adds that psychological touch. And Jim's moving on. He has dinner with Sylvia. Ooh, the plot thickens.
Precisely. The show tracks everything meticulously. Carol's legal stuff, her jealousy watching Jim socialize, and Brent's visits to a sanitarium to see a patient named Bill discussing new treatments. It shows his dedication even while his own life is falling apart. It's multi-layered.
Right, keeps the medical side going too. And then, as the divorce moves forward, new doors open for him. He's trying to get equipment for the sanitarium, meets new people like Madeline Post and her mother, gets turned down by one guy, Augustus Post, but then classic soap opera resilience. Dr. Brent finds a new benefactor.
Exactly. It's that constant cycle. Setbacks, triumphs, new challenges, new relationships, always moving forward down that road of life. It kept people invested.
Okay, so radio soaps were absolute kings of daytime, unbeatable.
Yeah.
But then television arrives, the new kid on the block. How did that change things? How did it impact these massive radio dramas?
Well, it's a really interesting moment in media history. The transition wasn't, immediate or straightforward. It wasn't like radio just stopped and TV started overnight. Even someone as forward-thinking as Erna Phillips, writing to a P&G exec in 1948, she was excited about TV's advertising potential, but she had real doubts about its appeal to homemakers, her core audience.
Right, because of the whole listening while doing chores thing.
Yeah.
She had that great idea about showing products being used in the show itself, right? Like early product placement.
Exactly. A brilliant idea, way ahead of its time. But yeah, her main concern was practical. How could housewives watch TV and get their work done? Radio was audio only, much more flexible for a multitasking listener.
That's a very fair point. You can't really scrub the floor and watch a screen intently.
You really can't. And beyond that, the networks and sponsors themselves were pretty slow to invest big money in daytime TV initially. They were focused on primetime, bigger audiences, more prestige, or so they thought. The very first TV soap, the first 100 years, didn't even premiere until December 1950. And that was P&G taking the plunge.
So it took a while. And must have been way more expensive to produce TV shows compared to radio.
Oh, massively more expensive. The cost difference was huge. Radio was incredibly cheap. You needed, a sound person? Maybe just an organist for music, a couple of techs. Actors read from scripts, drop pages on the floor. Minimal fuss. Television. Suddenly you need sets, costumes, makeup, multiple camera operators, lighting crews, sound engineers. Plus, actors had to memorize lines. No scripts allowed on camera back then before teleprompters. Rehearsal time shot way up.
Wow, yeah. Huge jump in complexity and cost.
Yeah.
No wonder sponsors were hesitant. And that shift definitely started hurting radio, didn't it?
Absolutely. By the 1959-60 season, the writing was on the wall for network radio soaps. CBS canceled 3 of its remaining 10. NBC dropped its last one completely. ABC was already clear. The big sponsors had moved their money, mostly to television. They saw it as the future, a better investment. Radio time became harder to sell, ended up being filled with cheaper spot ads instead of those big show-long sponsorships.
And local stations started doing their own thing more, playing music.
Exactly. Station managers realized they could often make more money playing records and selling ads to local businesses than giving up airtime for network serials that maybe weren't pulling in the listeners like they used to. It just made more business sense for them locally.
So given all that, how did our show, The Road of Life, actually fare in that transition? Did it make the jump to TV successfully?
Well, here's where it gets a bit sad for the Road of Life fans. While some big radio soaps, like The Guiding Light or Young Dr. Malone, they made the transition very successfully and ran for decades on TV. The Road of Life's television run was surprisingly short. It only aired on CBS from December 1954 to July 1st, 1955. Just about 6 months.
6 months. Wow, that's it. After running for almost 20 years on radio, why didn't it catch on? Was the TV version just not as good?
It seems the main reason wasn't actually the quality of the show itself, but more about logistics and network strategy, believe it or not. It was broadcast in the early afternoon, and apparently a lot of local CBS affiliates chose not to carry it in that slot. They preferred to run their own local news or talk shows, which made them more money. So it just never got the nationwide audience reach it needed to survive on TV. Couldn't build that critical mass. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, the radio version kept going until 1959, even after the TV one failed.
That's a real shame. A victim of scheduling and affiliate choices, basically. But it really shows how complicated that early TV landscape was.
It does. But importantly, many of the conventions from radio soaps absolutely made the leap to TV and really defined the genre there. Things like the unseen announcer setting the scene, that signature organ music hitting the dramatic beats, and definitely those Friday cliffhanger endings. Those all came directly from radio.
So the DNA of radio soaps lived on in TV soaps. And eventually, daytime TV became huge, right? That Time magazine quote.
Oh, yeah. By 1976, Time magazine called daytime TV TV's richest market. The audience loyalty was fierce, and the shows were making huge profits, way beyond their production costs. Verna Phillips's bet on that audience ultimately paid off massively, just in a different medium.
But then eventually, things changed again. Ratings started to decline.
Yeah, like all things in media, tastes and viewing habits shifted. From the 90s through the 2000s, ratings for daytime soaps started a long slide, which led, sadly, to cancellations of shows that had been institutions for decades. As the World Turns, which P&G was still involved with, was canceled in 2010 after 54 years on the air. That felt like the end of an era, really. The last direct link back to Procter & Gamble, the company that literally gave soap operas their name.
Wow. So wrapping this all up, what's the takeaway for us today? Looking back at shows like The Road of Life.
Well, I think it's clear they weren't just, simple background noise. They were a really intricate part of daily life for millions. They offered complex stories, they pioneered serialized narrative techniques we still use, and they created this unique kind of engagement. They really reflected and shaped an era.
Yeah, exploring everything from ethics in a hospital to divorce, finding new love.
Yeah.
The whole human experience, really.
Exactly. And they just remind us of the enduring power of storytelling. How even formats that might seem simple on the surface can hold incredible depth and innovation. And thankfully, the efforts of collectors like Joe Henn and groups like Spur de Vac and the Knights of the Turning Table, they're preserving this audio history so we can still experience it.
Absolutely. And that, my friends, was our deep dive into the road of life and the really captivating world of classic radio soap operas. We hope you enjoyed this journey through melodrama, innovation, and maybe a bit of old-school advertising genius.
Yeah.
What stands out to you about these classic dramas? Did anything surprise you?
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other forgotten gems of early broadcasting are out there, just waiting to be rediscovered, holding lessons, or just offering a fantastic escape into the past?
We definitely loved sharing this with you. If you found this deep dive as engaging and interesting as we did, please do hit that like button, subscribe for more explorations like this, and definitely drop a comment below. Let us know what classic shows you remember, or maybe what other topics you'd love for us to deep dive into next. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.